And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. I'm your host, David Steele, where all the movies I talk about, new and old, are going to be are part of a cinematic journey as I turn back the clock and look back into some of the greatest movies of all time. So, welcome back to the continuation of Marvel March. So, anybody who's just joining us, basically, what I've been doing for this whole month of March is running through some of the best Marvel films we have to date. I started with Iron Man because that, you had to start somewhere, and that was a good stepping off point. Okay. Then I moved on to Infinity War, which I think is a top notch movie, and that's why I did it. I coupled that back to back with Endgame because, look, it's a great double feature, right? So today, I'm going to do another film. And so this is one of the best Marvel films we have to date. And I'm talking about Civil War. So anybody who's not familiar with this, all of these films are obviously based off of comic books. And so that being said, one thing Marvel does very, very well is they get the source material correct. And when you get the source material correct, um, you get good movies. And that's what we've been getting not only in this film, but in all of the other films. Um, Welcome, Dadpool. Great choice for a review. This movie's top notch. Yes, it is. And I'm going to get to a couple of the particular reasons why it's top notch. So once again, as I do every time, okay, one of the things I'd like to do is talk about the numbers because you got to understand something. This was done back in 2016. So it's a completely different landscape to what we have today, right? After 2019, everything changed. Everything changed because Endgame was the perennial end for this Infinity Saga. So that all being said, it was one of those things where we had to start again. So this was in phase 3. So I'm going to let you guys know a couple of these numbers because we are getting to a point now in Marvel where everything's just generating money, and it has been for years. So opening weekend. So you got to understand something. Opening weekend, and that's really the barometer, okay, is how these movies perform opening weekend, right? Is it going to make money? Is it not going to make money? So it actually made quite a bit of money, okay? $179 million opening weekend, okay? And that is pretty astounding. So up until that point, okay, no, the other day I ran through Endgame, and Endgame was just obviously blew the doors off of it. This actually had, okay, the 14th largest opening weekend of all time. So that's pretty astounding when you think about it. 14th highest opening weekend of all time. And so it made, okay, about $179 million, which is astounding. So it would eventually go on to gross, okay, domestically, $408 million. Now, in the grand scheme of things, that's around, 18th, right around the same amount. Total, though, okay, this was $1 billion movie. So this ended up making, I want to say it was right around 1.2, 1.3 billion. Okay. So yeah, it finished with $1 billion. It made 700. So the majority of this movie was actually done overseas. So $743 million overseas. And then you had, as I said, the four and change. Okay. It ended up making 1.151 billion. Now that ranks 41st of all time. Of all time, guys. That's just below Iron Man, which made which made a $1.25 billion. I remember seeing this opening weekend with my son. He wore Team Cap, and I wore Team Iron Man. That's cool. That's cool. And that's a major theme of what this movie is. And I'm going to get into that in a couple of minutes too, because there are a couple of major themes that really dictate why this movie was so good. So now that we have that out of the way, those are the numbers, okay? And you're asking yourself probably, how does Marvel just keep cranking these billion-dollar movies out? Like, you've got Iron Man 3 that makes $1 billion, you've got, Civil War that makes $1 billion. So once again, like I said, it's a source material, okay? But there's a couple of other factors here, okay? There's a couple of other factors that really are staples. So just like a great recipe, okay? You have your favorite recipe out there, you need great ingredients. Well, this is what Marvel did, okay? The first thing was the Russo brothers. Now, they cannot be underscored. They came in, of course, doing Winter Soldier. I think it's a perfect movie. Guys, go back and check on the channel. I'll put it right up there in the little description box for you guys. That is going to be where you guys can check it out. I am going to do Winter Soldier later on in the month, so stay tuned for that. And so basically, it was interesting because in an interview, okay, with what I think it was Collider or somebody, they said that this was a continuation, really, of Winter Soldier, which was fascinating, right? It was all about Captain America, okay? And it was really all about that. So they described Captain America Winter Soldier as a political thriller, which it was, and it was a fantastic political thriller. This was more of a psychological thriller, okay? And I thought that was unique in itself. So that was the first main staple, if you will, okay? The next one, okay, the same screenwriters. So when Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, they wrote 4 pictures together, okay? And that can't be understated either, because when you have the same screenwriters and the same directors, once again, it's like a dance. Everything just falls into place, okay, and comes together. And they really leaned into it, and they knew where the characters were going to go, and they knew what they were going to do with them. So that has something to do with it. Then you couple everything, okay, the themes, the characters, and you start to have everything come together. Now the recipe is starting to look a little more tastier and looking a little more appetizing. So now, as I said, there were 3 main things, okay, and you actually touched upon a couple of them, Dadpool, that were very impressive about this film, going back and doing a rewatch. The first was the action. Just like in Winter Soldier, what they did was it was nonstop action. Okay, it was just going, okay? But then, so there were large scenes of action, okay? And then we had lows. So what I would suggest is, if you guys ever go back and watch this again and really want to do a deep dive into it, look at it, okay? So the first 12-minute sequence, we're in Nigeria, right? It starts out like a James Bond film, okay? And they're going after Crossbones, and they're really trying to get after this because he has a biological weapon, and they're trying to stop the biological weapon. Hence what happens with the inciting incident. I'll get to that in just a minute. So, but we had a great amount of action, and then we had a low. A great amount of action again. So the 12-minute sequence in Nigeria, then you have a low with them who's deciding who's going to sign the accords, and then you had Peggy's funeral, okay? Then you had another major action sequence, okay, with the subsequent arrest with Bucky and company. You had the ensuing fight with Black Panther, and the Bucky was outstanding. And I'm going to get to those 2 in a couple minutes, because those have especially some big meaning, okay? The fight coordinator deserves a lot of credit here too, because without them, I mean, the actors did a phenomenal job, but the sequence of fights and the hand-to-hand combat was just second to none. Then it all goes into the highway chase. When you have the highway chase, that's a whole thing in itself. Okay, so now you have another incredible sequence of action. Then it lulls again when we get Bucky being interrogated. Okay, and the package being delivered and everything else. So at the end of the day, what ends up happening is Act One is about the events, okay, of what transpired. Act Two is what should happen, okay, and Act Three was, of course, the epic fight at the airport in the aftermath. Okay, so that was the first thing. So let's go back to the inciting incident because every single um, every single movie has what's called an inciting incident. Think about your favorite movie and what the inciting incident is. Why does this thing happen? Okay. So once again, we had Crossbones trying to get this biological weapon. Okay. The Avengers stop him. Wanda, okay, tries to get all the biological weapons up. Okay. And there's an explosion. Okay. Hence the Accords. So we had Ross come in and say, look, guys, either you sign the Accords or don't. Okay. And this is the major theme of the film. Okay. So if everybody um, think back to Winter Soldier for a minute. What was that movie about? The main theme. Okay. It was privacy versus freedom. And by the way, guys, we still struggle with this today. This isn't like just a thing that just went off in the past. We still struggle with this today. So it was privacy versus freedom. So once again, like I said before, the Russos wanted a political thriller in Winter Soldier, and this is a psychological thriller. So they kind of tweaked it, right? So instead of having it privacy versus freedom, now we have oversight with the Accords against freedom. Now, of course, you're seeing Captain America there. This is the scene where they are all sitting down talking about the Accords. Um, Tony has already made up his mind because he encountered somebody during one of his talks, and it was a woman, okay, and her son was killed in Sokovia, and basically they just left. And by the way, guys, this is true in politics today too. Think about it like that if you want to look at it like that. That all being said, okay. Um, so we have that. I would say there's no villain here. Now you say, well, it's Nemo. Yes, but no. Okay, yes, he wants to destroy the Avengers, but no. Once again, a good villain, guys, is somebody that's doing the wrong things, the right things for the wrong reasons. So take Thanos, for example. Wanted to wipe out half the galaxy, but he was doing it the wrong way and killing people, right? Instead of, tapering back, he wanted to, wipe out half the population. Genocide. Same thing with Nemo, okay? He wanted the Avengers, and he even says it in that last scene with Black Panther. He says, a lot of people, along with stronger people, have tried to kill and failed. But if I can get them to rip each other apart, I'll have destroyed them. So that's what you see. So you might consider the government to be part of it too, but that's a stretch. That's up to you. I want to leave that up to you considerably. So the last of the three reasons why this was so good, okay, is the introduction of new characters. Okay, so we had the introduction to two new characters in here. Okay, two new characters. And as I said before, the highway scene and everything else was just spectacular how they did that. Okay, it took months to plan. It took more than months to, the CGI and everything else. Okay, but there is another factor here. Okay, and that is the introduction of new characters. And you're seeing one of them on screen right now, Black Panther. Okay, so the two main characters that were introduced were Black Panther and Spider-Man. And even though there's a Black Panther movie first, okay, we see this, okay, and the introduction to how we get Black Panther is spectacular, okay. He just comes jumping in, okay, out of nowhere, and we even see this is the scene with Cap and Bucky, and they're chasing him, and he says like, "Whoa, who is?" Falcon says, "Who is this guy?" He's like, "I'm about to find out." So they have no idea who this is, okay. That being said, we see this guy's got a bulletproof suit and everything else. So we learned a little more about him after, when in that little van ride, the suit's vibranium. So it's funny, so they like to mix up the humor too. So you like dressing like a cat? Like, okay. He's like, Cap's like, Sam. So he's like, it explains the Black Panther, and that's a really cool really cool background on how they do that. Okay, so we get the introduction of Black Panther, but we get the introduction to another character too, Spidey. Guys, think back to when you first saw this trailer, and I said this before, and I'll say it again now. For every single trailer you watch, okay, it doesn't matter if it's a horror trailer or if it's a comic book movie trailer or a dramatic trailer. There is a formula. In that formula, okay, it's the last 15 seconds that's the money shot. Because there is something out there called the recency effect, okay? And the recency effect basically states that you're going to remember in short-term memory, you're going to remember the first thing or the last thing you saw. Okay? So in the trailer, okay, but guys, you all knew what was going to happen. It's entitled Civil War. So this isn't a secret. So that all being said, and we all know, okay, that Sony has the rights to Spider-Man, okay, and nobody really knew about this. So that all being said, in the last 15 seconds, where he says, "Hey, Underoos," and he flips over and grabs the shield, and you go, "Oh shit, that's Spider-Man." People lost their minds. They lost their minds because they thought, "Oh my God, Spider-Man's being introduced to the MCU. What's going to go on? Whatever." The reason why they introduced Spider-Man too, okay, one of the major problems is that Spider-Man has always been played by somebody that's, call it what it is, an older guy. Whether it's Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, whoever. There had never been a Spider-Man to actually be a young man. So we get Tom Holland, who's 20, 21 years old. You wouldn't know he's British, by the way. That's phenomenal. But the fact is, they bring somebody in that looks like a high school student. Now you've got a 16-year-old kid coming into this whatever, okay? And what the Russos basically said was they wanted to bring somebody in that was a third party, had no idea what was going on. Because don't forget, Black Panther has a motivation here, okay? He thinks that Bucky killed his father. So he's a part of this, okay? Spider-Man is completely, the whole sequence in Queens where, Tony goes to visit him is epic, right? And so you have a third party, you have this kid who's in high school, okay? And he's completely removed from it. So that's the reason why, when I go back to Endgame for a minute, or Infinity War, that's why Tony was so broken up when Peter died, or he got snapped, right? Because he was his mentor, where he was mentoring Peter. He'd given him the suit. He was teaching him how to be a hero. He was teaching him how to fight supervillains. Hence, this is where we get the very beginning of Spider-Man. And it's fantastic. And ever since then, so the introduction of Spider-Man is extremely important to how this whole thing happens. Okay? So once again, going back to Black Panther for a minute, okay, we see him so we have our villains, or not villains, we have our heroes on both sides. We have Team Cap, okay? We have Team Cap, and we have Team Iron Man, okay? Now, we know these 8 to 10 are going to be going in each other's throats. We know that. That isn't even an issue. We also know that Black Panther has a stake in the game because he believes Bucky killed his father. Okay. But we see the major thing is we see the character arc. Okay. In every single movie you ever watch is some sort of character arc, even if it's one. This is the character arc. Okay. We're just introduced to Peter, so he's not going to have much of a character arc. We know everybody else. Okay. So the one person you can really have a character arc for is Black Panther. And we see him go from vengeance to helping him. And when he finds out that he didn't kill his father, he then wants to help him. So that, and that goes back to the post-credit scene, okay? Where he basically says, if I can help one of, my father and your friend are victims. If I can help one of them find peace, okay, that will make me feel much better. And he basically understands at that point, and that's where Cap and Black Panther and T'Challa really come together and bond. And Cap says, thank you for doing this. And that's where he says, if I can help one of them find peace. But he also, Cap says, you do realize if they find out he's here, they're going to come. Let them try. And the camera pans over and we see the Black Panther. And that's one of the epic post-credit scenes. And of course, a couple years later, we will get Black Panther. And so that being said, it's another introduction to the MCU. And that was just fantastic in the way it was done. But yeah, so the backstory was really good. Okay. And then, of course, getting back to what I was saying just a couple minutes ago, you had the epic fight. This is the third act, and we see everything that is what's going to happen. Okay. And we even see the aftermath. Okay. We even see the aftermath of what is. And that's, we find out a little more about Vision. Okay. But also he hits Rhodey. And from here on out, okay, Rhodey is paralyzed. And that's a scene in the hospital. He's like, how did this happen? He's like, I don't know. I became distracted. And he says, well, I didn't think that could happen. He's like, neither did I. Because he's evolving. So many great things. And the scene in the office. I got to go back to the scene in the office, and I don't have a picture for this. But this one of the, every movie has those scenes where you feel tension rising, right? Excuse me, you feel tension rising. And there was a scene after the highway, and they're in the office, and basically he says, Tony brings the pens in, and Cap says, well, it's not impossible. And so because he's trying to get him to sign the accords, and then he finds out about Wanda, and then it all blows up. But it's one of those things where this is just a phenomenal tension getter to what was going to happen later on. And by the way, that's not even the worst of it. Like, so we have everything that happens. And then on top of all that, okay, we have the ultimate reveal. Okay, so Nemo, of course, has been looking for this mission report. And so when he eventually finds it, and they go to Siberia, Tony goes there, and we get the ultimate twist. And that's, we find out that Bucky killed his parents. And I don't know, I'd love to know from people who were in the theater at the time what they thought about this. Because they said So the Russos and everybody else had said had been planning this for a couple years. And they were trying to figure out how to really catch everybody off guard. And this, I didn't see this in theaters, but when I first saw it, I went, whoa, that's a hell of a twist. And of course, that shot is the epic shot of them, going in, and he's like, Iron Man says, stay down. He's like, and Cap just, the callback to the first Avenger. I can do this all day. But this is one of those ending things in the third act that really leads to their whole dissension in Infinity War, and then they eventually make up in Endgame, right? At the end of, this film, Stan Lee makes his little cameo with his Tony Stank, but, Cap writes a letter. He's like, look, I was just trying to spare you. I'm sorry. Maybe I was sparing myself. Okay. And subsequently, that was the phone. And we don't hear from him at all. And then Infinity War, of course, we don't really see the Bond. We see him come that close away from calling Cap, and then we have the whole Children of Thanos moment. So this is where the dissension really started. It started with the Accords. It moved on from here, okay, but really festered itself. It's just absolutely fantastic in everything about it. So yeah, Steve pulling that. So that's another full circle moment I want to talk about real quick. Is the Steve pulling Bucky out of the river. Okay, when Steve, so everybody remembers Winter Soldier. Okay, and mind you, I'm going backwards, and I know in order, and I understand that. But anybody who's seen Winter Soldier knows that Bucky pulled Steve out of the river. Well, it happens here again, except it's the other way around. So they really do a lot of good things here. Yeah, I really, there's a reason why this made $1 billion. Okay, the writing was there, the action was there. Like I said, it was a continuation of Winter Soldier, and they really did a hell of a job with it, considering they had 12 different. I mean, look at this poster, guys. You have Ant-Man here, you have Bucky, Wanda, Falcon, and Cap, and then on the other side you have Black Panther, Vision, Rhodey, Black Widow, and then of course Tony. Now, obviously, they're not in their teams respectively there, but you have 10 different characters to play with. That's a lot of work. So they're able to do that and do it well. And really, it's 8, and then you have the introduction of Spider-Man, and you're not even seeing Spider-Man here, by the way, guys. That's interesting to note. Spider-Man's not in this photo. You would think they would put him in the publicity stuff, and they didn't. And that was a really good job of Marvel to keep him a secret, because they had that oh shit moment in the theater, right? It's an incredible movie, and just everything. I mean, the writing is strong, the action is superb, the drama, the tension. It's based, like I said, political, psychological thriller, freedom versus oversight. And there's so many good things, and it just works all the way around. I had such a good time with it. And this is one of those movies. Anybody who was lucky to see this particular Civil War, not the A24 one that's coming out on the 16th, which, by the way, guys, I will be covering that. But anybody who is lucky enough to see this particular Civil War in the theaters, God bless you, because that must have been incredible. So this is, this was just a phenomenal movie, and they did an incredible job. And I really think, and I've said it before, and I'll say my Winter Soldier thing, but the Russos saved the MCU. That's just my thought. Because if you don't forget, guys, Thor: The Dark World didn't do well. Thor was really, really good, directed by Kenneth Branagh, Phase 1, everything else. Thor: The Dark World did not do well. And that was back in 2013-ish. So when Winter Soldier comes out, there were two big films that came out in 2014. Okay, you had Winter Soldier and you had Guardians of the Galaxy, which I'll be covering for the remainder of the month. But those two movies really put it up to a different level. So, but yeah, that's what it is, and it's when I've said it before and I'll say it again, when you have good writing, when you have good, action, when you have good, drama and tension, it works. So that is Captain America: Civil War, and I loved it. Now, let me tell you what's coming up, guys. So first and foremost, I have sat down and I have watched the Avengers, and I have all my notes taken care of. I just have to go get, write a little script up, get some pictures. That is coming to you guys on Friday. I know I said it was going to be today, but so that is going to be on Friday. Okay. So check that out. It's probably going to be right around the same time. Okay. So look forward to that. And then we've got a couple more fantastic movies coming up for the rest of the month. Okay. We've got No Way Home, which I'll be doing. As I said, Winter Soldier. Okay. Guardians of the Galaxy. So there's going to be at least 2 or 3 more streams for Marvel films. Coming up, the month of April. Month of April is going to be a big month. So speaking of one character, Spider-Man, I don't know if anybody has seen this, and if you are getting to the end of this video, congratulations, thank you. I'm trying to make them as short as possible. But starting April 15th, okay, which is only 2.5, 3 weeks away, guys, Sony is going to be releasing every single Spider-Man film in theaters. Every single one. So starting April 15th, we're going to get the original Spider-Man back in 2002. The next week is going to be Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man 2. Then you're going to have Homecoming. Then you're going to have Far From Home. And then, of course, finally, you're going to have No Way Home. I'm going to be covering every single Spider-Man movie. I'm going to be going to the theater, watching them, and I'm going to come back. And the next day, guys, on that Tuesday, you guys are going to be getting a Spidey stream. Okay? So check that out. That's going to start April 15th. That's going to be every single Tuesday. On the 16th. So on that Tuesday, Spidey streams. So for 8 weeks. On the 16th, okay, I am going to be going to see The Dark Knight in theaters. Okay? I've been in contact with one of my former guests. So Phil Walsh, I don't know, he's a movie critic. Okay, he came on the show about a year ago, introduced him, talked some film. He's a huge Batman film fan. Okay, whether it's the Batman, the Dark Knight, loves it. He's agreed to come back on. So we're going to go see it. He lives in the Eastern time zone. We're both going to go see it, and we're going to go talk about. And by the way, guys, that is I'll leave that link up there for you guys as well. That is in the Perfect Movies as well. And we're going to talk about The Dark Knight. Then that Thursday, guys, believe it or not, we got Civil War coming out. Not this Civil War. A24 Civil War. So I'm going to go see that, and I'm going to cover that for you guys. Okay? So there's a lot of stuff coming up on the channel. Not to mention, guys, we have The Departed as our perfect movie. We have Collateral. We have Draft Day. We have Nightmare on Elm Street. We have, I think I'm going to do either The Karate Kid or Gremlins. Okay. So those are going to be your retrospectives for the month. So there's a lot of stuff coming up. And that leads me to this membership, guys. Um, and I end this every single stream with it. And it's really a necessary thing. So I'm not one to ask for money. Okay. However, these do take time and money to put together. Now, as you can see there, the first month is completely free. Absolutely not a dime. Okay. What I would ask is I'm giving you a ton of content. Okay. An absolute ton of content. Now, it is kind of sparsed out. This is not my full time gig. I want it to be. And with your help, it could be. But I do have a full time job. And this is why these videos aren't coming out as quickly as necessary. That all being said, guys, in all seriousness, okay, I love movies. I've been a movie fan for over 30 years, seen the industry change in a multitude of ways. Okay. What I would ask is this: watch some of these videos, whether it's a perfect movie series, whether it's these retrospectives, whether it's Marvel March, whether it's Anatomy of a Movie, whether it's any of my interviews. Okay. If you guys, so the first month is completely free. You aren't spending a dime. And I made that deliberate because I want you guys to really look at the content and make a decision for yourself. If you like it, I would like you to please hit that join button, okay? Because it will help me out immensely. Number one, I'll put all of the money toward the channel. Number two, okay, I will be able to then get better equipment to enhance the channel with. Number three, I have goals, guys. Okay. As I said, I want to make this a full time career. Okay. I'm doing this sparsely. Um, my goal at the end of this year, okay, whether they're achievable or not, I'm going to shoot for the stars on this, okay, is to get to 2,000 subscribers. And with your help, I can do that. All you've got to do is hit that like and subscribe button, okay? And I'd like to try to get between 15 to 20 paid memberships, okay? This is what I'm shooting for. I want this to get to as many eyes as possible. I just got business cards today. Anybody who's followed me on Twitter, okay, by the way, guys, that is my Twitter handle or X handle, whatever you like to say, on the bottom of the screen. Come follow me. I'm always talking about movies. I'm in spaces about movies, everything else. Drop me, follow me, drop me a DM and say hi. That all being said, this is my life. Movies are my life. I love movies, good, bad, or indifferent. Okay. Um, this is what I like to do for a living. And so, with your help and your contributions, I can do that. Now, think about this, guys. I just want you to consider this for a minute. Coffee is $3 a month. One Starbucks coffee is almost $3 a month. Okay. A gallon of gas right here in Los Angeles is almost $6 right now today. Okay. You're getting all this stuff for $6 a month if you help me out. And finally, guys, $10 a month, the director. Netflix is raising their prices. Hulu is going to start cracking down on their prices or their passwords. Okay. I'm not putting one of these videos behind a paywall. Not one of them. I'm not putting Anatomy of a Movie behind a paywall. I could, but I won't. Okay. I'm not putting the retrospectives behind a paywall. I could, but I won't. Because I want you guys to have the absolute best content that you possibly can. And here's the thing, guys. I watch YouTube. I have my favorite content creators. I know what it's like. Okay. And the thing is that if you don't spend a dime the first month, okay, I want you to enjoy it in everything. Even if you stop by here for a couple minutes, okay, I want you to look at the content because everybody, I don't know one person, okay, I have a few, I like to think I know quite a bit of people. Maybe I don't, but I know everybody, every single person I know has been affected by a movie, or they love movies. They have their favorite movies, like Dadpool here, who's been a loyal member. Nightmare on Elm Street. He loves horror, guys. Okay, I can't wait to sit down and watch this 1984 Nightmare on Elm Street. Okay, everybody loves movies. And the thing is, if you love movies and you want more and you want better content, this is where you need to come. So I'm asking for your support. Okay. Um, and yeah, I mean, make your mind up for yourself. Okay. Don't let me. Two things. Number one, watch the trailer. If that guy can't convince you, I don't know who can. Okay. But number two, more importantly, make your own mind up. Okay. Because I don't want to sit here. I can sit here and talk to you blue in the face about this. I want you to watch some of the videos. I want you to make your own mind up. And then, if you do nothing else, guys, nothing else, hit that like and subscribe button. Because what that does, okay, is it gets the content out. It tells me you like the content, and more people see it. And that's what I want. Okay, guys. So that is going to do it for today. Yeah, it's kind of a quick one, but that all being said, Friday, it's probably going to be around the same time here, noon. It's going to be the Avengers. So it's going to be the 2012 movie, The Avengers, and boy, is there a lot to talk about that one. And then, as I said, guys, we're going to have No Way Home, we're going to have Winter Soldier, we're going to have Guardians, and we're going to have a ton of stuff coming up. So, all that being said, there are 3 things I ask you guys to do every single day. Okay. One of them is be safe. 2 is be kind. And 3 is have a great day. So I'm David Steele, and this has been Real Talks, and have a great one, guys.